everybody here. I'm Svetlana Andriyanova, President IATEFL Ukraine, and I'm here to start our conference. I would like to start with a story. The day before yesterday, rather late in the evening, I had a call. The man introduced himself as Oleg, a teacher from Kharkiv. And although he introduced that he had missed the deadline for registration for our conference, he still wanted to attend it very much. And he wanted to find out how he could do it. And he said a funny thing. He said, you know, I have a friend, he's American from Kharkiv, and he has registered to your conference, and he's coming. Can I come as his mate or as his date? You can't even imagine how difficult it is for me to say no. But I gave him a polite no. I would rather prefer to say yes. You know, when you say yes, yes is so warm. It's a kind of a smile. But I said no. And it's a great pity to me. Second reason why it is a great pity to me, it's because I've been with IATEFL Ukraine for 22 years. Our organization is 25. I've been with it for 22 years, and from the very beginning, I have been involved into organizing of different events of our organization. We used to have regional conferences, national conferences, 6 meetings, summer schools. We had 2 joint summer institutes with IATEFL Ukraine. And during all these 22 years, our organization had ups and downs. I remember a time when we had only a little bit than 100 attendees at our conference. And then another conference in Donetsk. It was severe winter, and we were horrified of that weather, and we thought, you know, Donetsk, it's not a transportation hub, severe winter, maybe people wouldn't come, and they came. It was cold in a hotel. The warmest room was mine, because when we arrived, it was my birthday, and at the reception I showed my passport and said, it's my birthday today, I need the warmest room. And they gave me the warmest room, and we had gatherings there. It was a wonderful time. Today, we have registered, I don't know how many we have now in this hall, but 503 not members, but teachers of Ukraine registered to our conference. And I'm very happy to see my old friends and new faces, and maybe you will be our prospective members in the near future. I would like to say the following. Our country is going through a massive program of social and political change, and the government has placed a very high priority on education reform and on the need of Ukrainians to speak foreign language better, to be able to integrate into the international community. The Ministry of Education and Science is rolling out a series of reforms. But who will implement them? Who will teach our children, Generation Z and Generation Y? You know, they seem to be born with all these tablets and smartphones in their hands. They can easily get access to information without our help. They can find it on the net. Who can get them interested in the process of education and how to keep this process? To me, the answer is quite obvious. Only teachers who don't stop learning, who are open to innovation, and who are ready to change. Only these very teachers can get our students interested. The mission of IATEFL Ukraine, you can see it here, is to link, develop and support ELT professionals in Ukraine. Dear participants, you will have this possibility at our conference. We link you together and support your strive for development. I'm very glad that you met the registration deadline and that you have come. Coming back to Oleg, at the end of our conversation he said, you know, you'll hear about me. Next time I will come, and I will come to your other events. I hope we will have them. And now it's time to express our gratitude. On behalf of my organization, I would like to express our gratitude to the hosts, and especially to the rector of Boris Grinchenko Kiev University, Viktor Ognevyuk. Mr. Ognevyuk, I have just told it to you, and I can repeat it again and again. You have just a wonderful team. Wonderful, wonderful, and wonderful one more team. Natalia Vitnikova, Olga Vigotska, Valentina Yakuba and her team. You know, you are so supportive, and you are genuinely friendly, and your students. I can't but not say but them. They're very well organized, and it means that this institution has very highly leveled management. Thank you once again. I would also like to thank our honorable guest, Helen Fazy, Deputy Head of Mission of the British Embassy in Ukraine. We appreciate it a lot that you have found time in your busy schedule to attend our conference. Our thanks go to the representatives of the Ministry of Education and Science, Yuri Kononenko and Oksana Kovalenko. I would also like to greet the president of our sister organization, META from Moldova, Larisa Guzun. Larisa, I hope you are here and you can hear me. Thank you for making this trip and coming to Kiev, and I hope we will establish very good relations between our organizations in the near future. Unfortunately, Marta Bujakiewska from IATEFL Poland, with whom we have an associate agreement, could not come for family reasons. But I hope she can see us on YouTube. Marta, we are waiting for you at our next year's conference. You have promised to come. Now, my thanks go to sponsors. You know, you all have programs, and you can see our sponsors here, but I will name them. Thanks goes to Cambridge University Press, Folio Books, Macmillan Education, Oxford University Press, International Language Center, Pearson, Express Publishing, Linguist, National Geographic Learning. This year, we have each of our sponsors is going to introduce a speaker who has come to our conference thanks to this sponsor's financial support. So you will see these people who represent their institution. I will introduce them to you. And the last but not the least, the organizers. I have mentioned Boris Grinchenko Kiev University team. Then goes the British Council. You know, global IATEFL, they call the British Council their strategic partner. For us, the British Council is like parent, 2 in 1. And we love and respect our parent. And you know, traditionally, in our country, parents, they help their children till the end of their days. And that's why we hope we will keep this connection forever. And of course, my team. Vika Ivanisheva. She works for the British Council, but at the same time, she's a member of our executive committee. Vika, thank you very much. Sasha Shalenko. Sasha Shalenko forever. This wonderful booklet, yes, it's his masterpiece. Svetlana Drbatenko, Vice President of IATEFL Ukraine. Svetlana, hi. Tatiana Deksha. And me. As I have told, this year we celebrate the 21st anniversary of our organization and the 21st anniversary of partnership with the British Council Ukraine. I've been secretary of IATEFL Ukraine starting from the very beginning of my membership in this organization, from the very beginning of joining this organization. I have practically seen all our presidents except one. But, well, I want to name them. Irina Ionova, she's not among us. Olena Korol, she's here. Lena, hi. Tatiana Karpova, a wonderful person. Unfortunately, she passed away. Olena Belkina, Жанна Севастьянова, Anna Chikov, and me, the existing president. And now, I would like to invite, I would like to invite the rector of this institution. Can we have the slide? I would like to invite to a welcome speech the rector of this institution, Viktor Ognevyuk, rector of Boris Grinченко Kiev University, doctor of philosophy, professor, full member of the National Academy of Pedagogical Sciences of Ukraine. You're welcome.
Доброго ранку. Дозвольте мені вас привітати від найкращої команди, як сказала попередній спікер. Я не буду з цим сперечатися, тому що не хочеться заперечувати такі приємні слова. Я не буду сьогодні виступати англійською мовою, тому що я до певної міри жертва радянської системи освіти. Я народився в селі і навчався в сільській школі, і пам'ятаю, в 5 класі у нас почалася англійська мова. Я відразу полюбив англійську мову, але вчитель не витримав сільського життя, через 1,5 місяця роботи зник. Через 2 роки нам знайшли вчителя, але вона не надто прагнула нас навчити англійської мови. І ви пам'ятаєте, що ми мали вивчати в радянській школі в курсі англійської мови. Було важливо вивчити теми там на зразок 25th Congress of the CPSU, чи Moscow, the capital of the USSR і так далі. Тобто ми мали вивчити якісь теми, які не давали можливості комунікувати. І я вже пізніше, коли досліджував цю проблему як фахівець в галузі освіти, чому, власне, так була побудована система освіти. Лише в спеціалізованих школах йшла нормальне вивчення англійської мови. Тому що держава робила все, щоб громадяни не знали іноземної мови і не могли спілкуватися з іноземцями. Це була політика. Більше того, я не знаю, чи знаєте ви, але в радянські часи кожен, хто знав досконало будь-яку іноземну мову, був на обліку в КГБ. Ці люди весь час були під контролем. І кожен, хто має стаж роботи з вчителів англійської мови, вони перебували також на обліку. Це наше минуле. Але я зараз щасливий, бо мої діти, мої сини, вони вже дорослі, вони працюють у бізнесі, вони вільно володіють на професійному рівні в своїй сфері англійською мовою, менший син англійською, італійською, їхні дружини володіють англійською, мої внуки розмовляють англійською. І мене це радує. Чому так змінилося все? Да? Ось моє покоління моїх дітей, покоління моїх внуків, це говорить про те, що Україна відкрилася. Бо в мій час навіть мотивації не було. Крім того, що все робилося, щоб не вчити, навіть мотивації не було вчити, бо ти не міг не знати, де застосуєш англійську мову. Що ти з нею будеш робити? Виїхати за кордон, ну ви розумієте, це буде надто складно. Це потрібно весь час переконувати, проходити фільтр всередині країни, перевірки в КГБ, чи тебе випустять в туристичну поїздку чи ні. Але слава Богу, світ змінився, Україна відкрилася. І наші люди сьогодні можуть мандрувати світом, і їм дійсно потрібна англійська мова. Моїм дітям потрібна англійська мова, тому що вони юристи, вони ведуть дуже багато справ, які пов'язані. Мій менший син виступає в лондонському суді як експерт. І мені це приємно. Мій старший син є представником багатьох міжнародних організацій в Україні з інтелектуальної власності і член Всесвітньої організації, правління Всесвітньої організації з інтелектуальної власності. І я радий, що вони це використовують для життя. Я хочу сказати, що ви робите прекрасну справу, тому що ви навчаєте людей комунікувати, і світ стає ближчим до наших людей. Це дуже велика справа. Ви виконуєте дуже важливу місію. Ви навіть не уявляєте собі, настільки ваша важлива роль сьогодні для розвитку українського суспільства. Бо англійська мова потрібна не лише для подорожей, а для того, щоб створювати бізнес, для того, щоб налагоджувати тісні економічні зв'язки, для того, щоб розвивати культурні зв'язки, для того, щоб відкривати нашу освіту для студентів з різних країн світу. Ваша місія є дуже важлива. Я дякую Британській раді, яка також є партнером нашого університету, бо ми чимало проєктів реалізуємо в університеті разом із British Council. Я хочу подякувати і громадській організації, яка утворилася, яка вас об'єднує. Сьогодні 500 вчителів приїхало. Це дуже добре. Добре, що є така ініціатива знизу, що є велике бажання професійно спілкуватися. Це говорить про те, що коли ініціатива йде знизу, то ця справа має дуже велику перспективу. Я хочу вам побажати всім бути успішними людьми, виховувати успішне покоління, бути щасливими людьми і виховувати щасливе покоління українців. Дякую вам, що ви є, і почувайтеся себе як вдома в стінах Київського університету імені Бориса Грінченка. Хай вам щастить.
I have lost my microphone. Who knows where is it? Nobody. Thank you very much for your welcome speech, dear Rector. And I would like to invite Helen Fazy, Deputy Head of Mission, British Council in Kiev. Helen, you're welcome. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. Deputy Head of Mission of British Embassy in Kiev.
Thank you. I'm really pleased to have been invited to take part in the opening of your conference today. and to see such a great number of English professionals who have travelled from across Ukraine to take part, to learn, to reflect and to develop. Congratulations on being part of this exclusive group. I know there are at least 100 people who wanted to be in the room and didn't make it onto the list today. We're here in part to celebrate the 25th year of IATEFL, supporting English language teachers in Ukraine. It's 25 years of working closely with the Ministry of Education and Science, with government schools and language schools, with universities and with publishers both in Ukraine and in the UK. And of course 25 years of partnership with the British Council, including the British Council's support for summer and winter schools for teachers' professional development, where more than 500 teachers from a variety of professional contexts have had an opportunity to meet, to engage in new methods and techniques, and to exchange experience and practice. The British Council's work to support English language teaching and learning is an important part of what the UK government as a whole is doing in Ukraine. It is sometimes a direct part of what we are doing to support reform, as when the British Council works with teachers, lecturers and trainees in the development of schools and higher education, or when we are helping to improve the English language skills of the civil service, or for example the Kiev Patrol Police, so that they are better equipped and more confident when it comes to working with either international civil servants or with tourists and visitors to the city. English is also part of our response to the conflict in eastern Ukraine. Recently, the British Council have been helping by setting up English resource centres and English clubs in schools in Luhansk and Donetsk, providing opportunities for school children and for their local communities to develop their English skills in what is, of course, an extremely challenging and difficult environment. And teaching English is also a way of creating opportunities for Ukrainians to explore the world, literally or virtually explore the world, and to develop their own ideas about what kind of country they want to live in and how they can work to make Ukraine into that. And I think the rector has just spoken more eloquently than I could about what that means. But the British Council Teaching Centre, we are very proud of. It provides quality English language classes to over 1,000 adults and 1,000 children annually. This is, of course, exactly what many of you are working on in your own schools and universities. And I think the mission you have to help Ukrainians engage not only with native English speakers, but with the whole world is something, it's absolutely vital, and it's something that you should be very proud of your part in. English has become a life skill. It's required for study, work, communication, information and travel, and it really opens the doors to the world and to all the opportunities that benefit an individual, their family and community. As teachers of English, you shoulder a responsibility for creating professional English language users, children and adults studying in all kinds of different institutions. And this conference is an important opportunity for you, continuing your professional development, enabling you to engage with new ideas and share your experiences. I very much hope that you find the next couple of days worthwhile and that you pick up some ideas and techniques that you can take back to your classes and that will help you to teach with more confidence and with more creativity. I wish you all a wonderful conference and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. And I invite Yuri Kononenko, Head of Department of General Secondary and Preschool Education. Yuri, you are welcome.
то я вже не буду говорити, що я теж жертва, бо наші іноземні партнери подумають, що у нас суцільні жертви тут в залі представлені. Але в мене ще підмазка є, що державні службовці ж повинні державною мовою завжди виступати, тобто таке. Шановні колеги, шановні друзі, насамперед найщиріше вітання від міністра освіти і науки України Лілії Гриневич, вам всім. Ми переживаємо надзвичайно складний період нашого життя, вся країна, ви знаєте про це. І в тому числі наша система освіти. Але надзвичайно цікаво теж, тому що не так часто буває, фактично раз, мабуть, на 20-25 років, коли таке глибоке реформування всієї системи відбувається. І ми стоїмо на порозі 1 вересня 2018 року не просто як 1 вересня, а старту нової української школи. Це така надзвичайно яскрава буде подія в нашому житті. Ви знаєте, що ми всі дуже багато робимо для того, щоб це не був фальстарт, щоб це був такий серйозний старт реформування системи освіти. І мені надзвичайно приємно висловити вдячність всім вам, в першу чергу вчителям, саме вчителям англійської мови, які є передовими в цьому всьому процесі. В силу як об'єктивних причин, так і суб'єктивних. Все ж таки, якщо ми беремо аналіз нашого педагогічного кадрового складу, то завжди вчителі іноземної мови є більш модерновими в силу того, що може вони, як тут вже неодноразово говорилось, ще з радянських часів йшли попереду, мали такий зв'язок такий духовний з цивілізацією такою. І це надзвичайно важливо, щоб ці передові методи, які ми використовуємо в вивченні іноземних мов, також, і ми над цим працюємо, ви знаєте, вони також використовувалися при викладанні інших предметів, і ми теж маємо надію, що цей досвід ваш буде використовуватися. А взагалі наша робота надзвичайно є важливою. І було б неправильно не подякувати від імені Міністерства освіти Британській Раді, яка вже всі роки незалежності України підтримує Україну, британському посольству, нашій асоціації викладачів англійської мови як іноземної. Тобто всім вам за ту велику роботу, яку ви проводите, і побажати вам продовження її, здоров'я і щастя.
Dear honorable guests, thank you very much for coming. And now it's time for the first plenary. And I invite Simon Williams, Director of the British Council Ukraine, Cultural Attaché of the British Embassy in Kiev.
Svetlana, thank you. Good morning, everyone. There are a lot of Simons in the room. I'm the non-English one. I'm the least important Simon in the room. And it's my job to introduce the most important Simon in the room, who's going to be talking about tips for doing teacher research. But I did just want to say a couple of words before I do that. Svetlana, you were kind enough to describe the British Council as the mother and father of IATEFL Ukraine. Now, when I was a grumpy teenager, I remember my mother saying that the white hairs are hereditary because you get them from your children. I'm happy to say categorically that that's not defined our relationship with IATEFL Ukraine. We're very proud of our relationship with IATEFL Ukraine right from the start. We're very proud to be carrying on working with IATEFL Ukraine on this conference and on recent conferences. And I would say, we're not celebrating the 25th anniversary, we're celebrating only the first 25th anniversary. It's great to see IATEFL Ukraine really growing in size and activity in recent years. And we have every confidence that it will continue to grow for the next 25 years, for the next 25 years, for the next 25 years. So thank you for letting us be your partner. And I hope, as I did as a grumpy teenager, I hope you will sometimes challenge us as your parents and tell us what you need from us and not just rely on us, because that's an important part of the relationship. But that's enough from me. It's our great pleasure to welcome Simon Borg, who is a visiting professor at the University of Leeds and the Western Norway University of Applied Sciences, who will be making the plenary speech. Simon will talk about himself and he will talk about his subject. I will say that as well as being here for the conference, he's also doing some really interesting research for us at the British Council, looking at the long-term benefits and impact of the work we do through our teaching centre. And so talking to people who have been our students 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and seeing what they have done since and what benefit they believe that work has done. Now you as English teachers, that is a really important part of everything you do as well. So I hope that Simon will be finding some amazing stories for our history. I know that you already will have made many amazing stories from your history of the impact you have done. So it's my pleasure to introduce the important Simon Borg.
Going a bit too fast here. Okay, so good morning everyone. How are we today? Excited? Good, good. The lights, if I squint every now and then, it's because the lights are so bright that I can't really see. Over there I can't see very well, but here I can see well. But I will pretend I can see you and sort of look in your direction throughout the talk. Okay. So thank you for coming today. It's great to see such a packed hall. Thank you for the invitation from IATEFL Ukraine, and thank you to the British Council as well for making my visit possible. My job today at the conference, I guess both in the plenary and in the workshop later, is to excite you about teacher research, which is the topic I'm going to talk about. So if by the end of the session you're a bit more interested in teacher research, and that's good, we'll be happy with that. And if you want to know more in practical terms, some of you can probably squeeze in to the workshop later on. Not all of you, I hope, because that would be hard to do a workshop with 500. Okay, so the session has two parts really. I'll talk in the first part, and then in the second part there's a little task for you to do. And in your bags, maybe we should do this now, in your bags, if you haven't discovered it yet, there is a piece of paper which says plenary 12 tips for doing teacher research. So everyone should have one of these in your bag, and later on in the session I'll ask you to do something with this, okay? All right. But let me talk a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to introduce teacher research, explain what it is, explain why I think it's a valuable idea for teachers, talk in general terms about how to do it, and give you some tips for doing it well as well. But let's start more broadly by thinking about professional learning, professional development for teachers. And the question for us is, what's the best way to help teachers learn? What's the best way to help teachers develop? And in general terms, we have some ideas. We have some ideas. I'm sure you have lots of ideas as well. But if we look at the literature, if we look at what's happening around the world, and we do have some ideas about this. Well, first of all, we know that there are certain types of professional development which are maybe less effective, which we maybe traditionally have relied a lot on, but today we maybe should rely less on. And there's a short description of them there. Professional development which is controlled externally, completely externally. Professional development which is very short. So I don't know, you go to a workshop for 1 hour, for 2 hours. We know that doesn't really lead to a lot of change in what teachers do. Professional development which is input-based. Input-based is where teachers listen and an expert talks, which I guess is what I'm doing at the moment. But in a conference, that's okay. In a conference plenary, that's okay. But if the only training teachers get, if the only development teachers get involves them listening, we know again that long term that doesn't make much difference. And unsituated events. An unsituated event is one which is not connected to your teaching. So if your professional development you do is not closely connected to your teaching, we know it's not going to have much impact on what you do. So these are the kinds of, this is the kind of professional development which there has been a lot of in the past, but which we now know is not the most effective way to help teachers develop. So what we do need, though, in contrast, more positively, we need more emphasis on professional development, which is led by teachers, teacher-led, where teachers have some responsibility for what they're doing. Professional development which is extended, which takes place over time. So not an hour of professional development, but weeks, months. And of course we think about professional development as a lifelong activity, don't we? Professional development which is inquiry driven by inquiry. And this is very relevant to my topic today, because teacher research is all about inquiry. So I'll explain more about that. Professional development which is situated, which is closely connected to the work you do every day in classrooms. And professional development which is social. Professional development which encourages teachers to learn together and to learn from one another, not just from external experts. You have a lot of knowledge and experience that you can share with each other. So those are the kinds of professional development activities. This is the kind of professional learning, generally, which we know tends to be more effective, tends to have more impact on what teachers do. And if we look at some examples, I'm not going to talk about all of these today, of course. If we look at some examples of what we might call 21st century professional learning, there are many strategies there which reflect these characteristics. They're extended, they're led by teachers, they're social, and they are based on inquiry. And you may be familiar with some of those, you may have experienced some of those. For example, peer observation. How many of you have done peer observation? I just see some hands, just to get you to exercise a bit. Good. So peer observation is quite a modern approach to professional development. It requires teachers to work together, to visit each other's lessons, to discuss each other's lessons. You don't need an external expert to do peer observation. Teachers can do it as often as they like. They can do it in their schools, in their classrooms. And they can do it, of course, over time. Things like mentoring, things like reflection groups, things like reading groups, all really interesting strategies for professional development. And you might want to go away and read a bit more about some of these. The one I'm going to talk about more now is teacher research. So teacher research fits into this broader group of strategies for professional development which we believe are particularly effective. Okay, so let's define what it is. Let's define what it is, and it's quite simple what teacher research is. First of all, teacher research is something that teachers do. Teachers do. Let me stray a bit over to this side so you don't think I'm neglecting you. And I can see you better as well. Now I can't see the people over there, but that's okay. So teacher research is something that teachers do. Okay, it's not something we do to teachers. Many of you have participated in research projects, I'm sure. As participants, you've filled in other people's questionnaires maybe, or you've allowed other people to come and observe your lessons for their research. That's not teacher research. Teacher research is something that you do. You are the agent, not the subject. Teacher research involves systematic inquiry. So it's something teachers do, and it involves systematic inquiry. You study yourself, your teaching, your learners systematically. As I said, the focus of teacher research is yourself. If you're a teacher doing teacher research, you are studying yourself. What you do in your classroom, your teaching, what your learners are doing, what your learners are learning. It's all about ourselves. So you can say it's quite a selfish activity, but selfish in a good sense. Selfish in a good sense. It's inwards looking, not studying other people. And why do we do it? Why do we do teacher research? Well, it's a professional development activity. So we do it to improve the quality of teaching and learning. To improve the quality of teaching and learning. So by doing teacher research, we develop a better understanding of ourselves, of our work, of our learners. And that understanding allows us to teach more effectively and allows our students to learn more effectively. So it's quite a simple equation, okay? Quite a simple equation. So this is what teacher research is. And I do have to emphasize, it's not something that people do to teachers, it's something that teachers do to themselves in a way. The teacher is in charge of the process. Okay, now I was working with some people yesterday and I showed them this picture of ice cream, and I always say I don't like to make people think about food while I'm speaking because food is a lot more interesting and exciting normally than anything I have to say. But the point here is that teacher research comes in different flavors. And so you may hear, or you may have heard, and you may come across terms such as these when you're reading. For example, action research. How many of you have heard of action research? Okay, so I've got some hands there. Action research is simply a kind of teacher research which has particular characteristics. And it's the same with the others. Self-study, exploratory practice, some kinds of reflective practice. These are all specific kinds of teacher research, but they all share the definition I've already given you. If you're doing action research, you are investigating your own teaching. Just as action research follows a particular methodology. So people very often ask me, what's the difference between teacher research and action research? And the simple answer is, action research is one kind of teacher research. Action research is one kind of teacher research. Teacher research is the broader term, and these are specific types. Now, teacher research tends to happen through a cycle. There are a number of stages that we go through, and I'll say a bit more about these in the workshop, but just to introduce the idea. The very first thing we need to do, or you need to do if you're doing teacher research, is to ask some questions. You need to have a question that you'd like to answer, something that you'd like to know more about. So your question might be, why do my students not like speaking during English lessons? Or your question might be, when I put my students into pairs, why do they not want to speak English? Or your question might be, why do they like this activity so much, but they dislike another one? So the questions will come from your practical experience. The questions will come from your practical experience in the classroom. There'll be things that you're interested in learning more about. And that's good, because you're in control of the process. You choose the questions. No one gives you the questions. Once you have a question, of course, you need to try and answer it. And you answer the question systematically, we said. In other words, by collecting some kind of evidence. So if I want to know why my students don't like speaking English, I need to think about how I can get that information. So I might ask them. I might have little discussions in class. I might give them a little questionnaire to fill in. There are different ways of getting the information, but we have to get information that allows us to answer our question. And when we get that information, we have to do something with it. We have to analyze it. We have to say, okay, I asked my students for their opinions, let me see what they said. And I have to analyze it. And then I have to think about what I learn. Okay, I've looked at what my students told me. Now what can I do with that information? Maybe they said to me, we like speaking English, we just don't like the topics that you ask us to talk about. Maybe that's what they told me. So I can say, okay, I need to think about different topics they will find more exciting. And I might need to go back and ask them about topics. So this is the general process we go through when we do teacher research. We ask a question, we collect some information to answer it, we analyze the information, and we apply what we learn. And you can see it's a cycle. It's a cycle. Because we can go around and start again. At the end of the process, we may have even more questions. And we go around again. Okay, just one example. I work with lots of teachers in different parts of the world who are doing teacher research. Here's an example from a teacher in the UK I work with, and this was his question. This was his question. And he asked this question because his school wanted to introduce a digital platform, and his school wanted homework to be done online. That was the school's plan, to shift all homework to an online platform. So students would be assigned homework, they would have to go to the platform and do it online. And he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure whether his students would be happy about that. He wasn't sure. So he said, okay, I'm going to investigate that. And this was his question. What are my students' attitudes to traditional and online homework? So over a period of about 12 weeks, he gave his students different types of homework. Sometimes it was traditional homework, using pen and paper. Sometimes it was digital, using the platform. And each week, he asked them for feedback. He asked them for feedback on the homework. Did you enjoy the homework? Did you find it useful? Which one did you prefer? Simple questions every week, over about 12 weeks. And then he looked at the feedback he was getting from his students. And what he found is that his students, overall, preferred the traditional homework. He found that his students still wanted to be able to pick up a pen and a notepad and write homework. And that was interesting. So he learned something about his students' preferences. And therefore, therefore, he continued, even though the school was moving to a digital platform, he continued to give his students traditional homework as well. Okay, so this is a simple example of a project. If we look at the benefits of teacher research for teachers, there are many benefits, and much has been written about the benefits of teacher research. So teachers who've been through this process of studying their own work, they talk about these kinds of benefits. They say, I feel more confident professionally now. They say, I feel more motivated professionally. So teacher research can boost your motivation as a teacher, help you rediscover the excitement of teaching. Teachers talk about being more critical about their work. Critical in the sense that they're constantly questioning what they do. They're constantly questioning whether what they do is effective. They're constantly thinking about their learners. Teachers talk about greater understanding of themselves, of their learners. Teachers talk about having a greater sense of autonomy, professional autonomy. So these are just some of the benefits of teacher research which have been widely documented. Here's a quote from a teacher, one of the many teachers I've worked with, and in this quote, AR refers to action research. So this teacher was saying, you can feel you're making a difference with action research. This was important for the teacher. You can feel you're making a difference to your teaching and to learning. It's not about researching purely for personal gain, but it's focused on practical application. And this is one way in which teacher research, of course, is different to conventional academic research. Teacher research has a very practical purpose. The purpose is to change and improve what we do in the classroom. Now, of course, it would be naive to assume there are no criticisms of teacher research. Of course there are. I'll just talk about a couple. Several years ago, some of you will be familiar with the work of Zoltan Dornier. He's best known for his work on motivation. But several years ago, he wrote a book about research methods, and he had a very short section in there about teacher research. And this is what he said. He said, there's still too little of it. He was saying not enough teachers do it. But what was also interesting, he said, I'm still to meet a teacher who has been voluntarily involved in an action research project. Now I hope that in the 11 years that has passed, he has had the opportunity to meet teachers who do teacher research because they want to, because there are many teachers of this kind. There are teacher research projects happening in many English language teaching contexts around the world. Okay, so I don't think this criticism is legitimate anymore. Here are just a couple of examples of teacher research schemes that are running around the world. One is an English UK action research scheme that runs for teachers in the UK, and the other one is called Champion Teachers. Champion Teachers, which is a teacher research scheme that's run by the British Council in Chile. These are just two examples, but it's clearly incorrect to say that teachers around the world are not doing teacher research. It is an increasingly popular professional development strategy, and it's increasingly being supported by large organisations such as the British Council, such as Cambridge Assessment English. Here's another criticism which I think is interesting. Some of you may be familiar with the work of John Hattie. John Hattie is a very well-respected academic, done a lot of really important work, but he was recently asked for his opinions about whether teachers could be researchers. He was asked for his opinions in an interview, and this is what he said. He said researching is a particular skill. Some of us, and of course when he says us, he doesn't mean teachers, he means academics. Okay, when he says us, that's the problem really. Some of us took years to gain that skill. Asking teachers to be researchers, they are not. Now I hope you disagree with that. I hope you do disagree. The problem with what Hattie is saying is he's thinking about us. He's thinking about academics. And I don't think he really understands what teacher research is. Okay, I don't think he understands what teacher research is. When we talk about teacher research, we're not saying to teachers, we want you to become academic researchers. We're not asking you to compete with Hattie. Okay? So I think this kind of criticism is based on a misunderstanding of what teacher research actually is. Teachers are and can be very good teacher researchers, there's no doubt about that. So when someone criticizes teacher research for not being sufficiently academic, your response to that would be, well, it's not meant to be academic. It's systematic, but it's a practical activity. So I think this kind of criticism reflects a lack of understanding of what teacher research actually is. And in fact, one important point about teacher research is that the results of teacher research are not necessarily the most important part of the process. In academic research, the results are really the most important thing. But in teacher research, there's much more to it than simply the results. So I've underlined professional reinvigoration. Professional reinvigoration. So I think that teacher research, and I've seen many examples of this around the world, can give you professional reinvigoration. It can make you professionally excited and motivated again. And attitudinal realignment. It can change your attitudes towards your work. So it's not just about results. And in fact, again, to take a quote from a teacher, this is a teacher from Pakistan I worked with, and she said, after doing teacher research, that we've been teaching the same way we taught 10 years ago, but now we have an urge to experiment with new ideas in our teaching. She's not talking about the results of her research. She's talking about this excitement she's discovered to experiment in the classroom after 10 years of teaching in the same way. And you may have heard the expression we have when someone says to you, do you have 10 years experience or do you have 1 year repeated 10 times? Okay? Do you have 10 years experience or 1 year repeated 10 times? And what this teacher was saying is she'd had 1 year repeated 10 times, but now after doing teacher research, she was able to experiment, to try out different things. Okay, so what are we saying so far? We're saying that there are good theoretical reasons for teacher research. Good theoretical reasons. It fits very nicely into the group of professional development activities which we know are useful. We know there's a lot of international activity. Teachers around the world in many places are doing teacher research, both teachers of English and teachers of other subjects. There are many benefits, undoubtedly, of teacher research, many benefits. And of course there are some criticisms which we need to be able to respond to, I think, reasonably. Which brings us to our handout. So, could you make sure you can see a copy of this handout, please? Either your own copy or someone sitting next to you. Okay, are we ready for this? So, the instruction there says, Here are 18 tips for doing teacher research. There are 18 on your handout. But I would only recommend 12 of these. So I think 12 of these are good tips, and 6 I probably wouldn't recommend. Okay? Your task is to find the 12, based on what I've said today, find the 12 tips that you think I would recommend. So I want you to find the 12. If that's too easy, can you put the 12 tips into 4 groups of 3? That's a bit harder. But your first task is, which 12 tips do you think I would recommend? And if you do that, if you find that too easy, can you organize them into 4 groups of 3? And I'll give you a few minutes to do that, and feel free to talk to your friends and make as much noise as you want to, of course. Okay? So about 5 minutes for that, please. You can make a bit more noise if you want to, I'm sure. Okay, was that enough time? Was it easy? We teach teachers never to ask their students, was that easy, don't we? Because they always say yes, or they say nothing. Okay, so let's go through these. So these are 12 tips for doing teacher research. So the idea is if you want to do teacher research in your own classroom, you want to encourage other teachers to be doing teacher research in your schools or organizations, these are useful tips, I think, to keep in mind to make the process more beneficial for you, for them, for everyone, okay? Okay, so I'm going to do these in groups. I'm going to do these in groups of 3. So here's the first group. So the first group has got number 5, number 16, and number 18. I feel like we're playing bingo here a little bit. Okay, playing bingo. 5, 6, and 18. So these are all related to quality. Okay, quality. Let's have a look at these. So 5 is make small scale but high quality your motto. Okay, small scale. Teacher research needs to be small scale. If it's too big, you won't be able to do it because your main job is your teaching. Okay, so you want a project, you want an inquiry, an investigation that you can manage within the time available. Small scale, but high quality. Quality is important. Okay, quality is important. So if you're going to do teacher research, we want you to do it well, so that then you can trust the results you get. But small scale, high quality. Not large scale. I don't think it's feasible to ask teachers to be doing large scale projects. If you're doing a master's degree, if you're doing a PhD or whatever, that's fine, but that's different. That's for academic purposes. The kind of work we're talking about here needs to be small scale, but high quality. 16 says, become familiar with basic issues in collecting and analyzing research data. And the key word there is basic. Basic. We're not suggesting that you have to go and do a research methods course. There's no need. You don't need to do a research methods course to do teacher research. But you do need to have some basic understandings. For example, if you want to give your students a simple questionnaire to get feedback from them, you need to design that, and you need to design it reasonably well. Okay, so we do need to have some basic understanding of how to get information to answer our questions, and then what to do with that information. But basic, and many of you will already have this basic knowledge, so that's okay. And number 18, do some background reading related to your topic. So when you do a teacher research project, you will focus on a particular topic, and again, do some background reading. We're not saying do a literature review or spend months reading. No. We're saying just see if you can find 3, 4 relevant sources that might give you some ideas. So it's all very, very modest, okay, very feasible. So those 3 things, if we keep it small scale but high quality, if we have some basic understanding of how to collect information and how to process the information, and if we do some background reading, those 3 tips will help us improve the overall quality of the project. And here's a quote about quality. And this is just the reason I'm making this point is because a lot of people think that teacher research is bad research. This is what a lot of people say to me. They say, oh, teacher research is just research done badly. And that's totally not the case, okay? Teacher research does need to be systematic. It does need to be good quality. Okay, so it says here, a basic level of rigor, a basic level of quality must apply to the collection and analysis of data if teacher research is to generate findings we can have confidence in. So quality is important. Teacher research is not bad research. It's good quality research with a particular purpose. Quality doesn't mean that teacher research has to look like academic research. So, for example, we talk about questionnaires, yeah? And when we think about questionnaires, we think about pages and pages of, I don't know, agree, disagree statements. That's what we imagine. But when we're doing teacher research, we need to find, we can use other strategies for collecting information. So if you want to give your students a questionnaire, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be very densely written. You can use pictures. You still need to think about design, but the idea is there are lots of options available to us for collecting information in the classroom. So we can break free from some of the constraints we have when we're doing academic research, which is a good thing. Okay, the next set of tips I would group under the heading of feasibility. Feasibility. It's really, really important if you're going to do teacher research to make sure it's feasible. If it's not feasible, you won't be able to do it because you'll run out of time or energy or resources. So let's have a look at these. So the first one says, number one, integrate your research into normally occurring teaching and learning activities. This is really important. Your primary job is to teach. That's always going to be your primary task. Your primary responsibility is to teach. So what you want to do is to integrate your teacher research into what you normally do. Into what you normally do. Rather than having to change what you normally do or rearrange things and create a lot of disruption. Teacher research should not be disruptive for you or for your students. So the idea is, how can we integrate teacher research into what we normally do? That makes it a lot more feasible. Number 8 is also about feasibility, and it's just a reminder that teacher research will make some additional demands on your time. There'll always be a little bit of additional demands on your time. This is true for any kind of professional development you do. You need to invest a little bit of time, but hopefully not too much. And number 12, ensure your plans are feasible given the resources available. So that's why I said there's no point in designing a teacher research project which is really big, which requires lots of time, lots of resources, if you don't have those resources. So design your project with the resources available in mind. Okay, so feasibility. So quality is our first concern, quality, but also feasibility. Feasibility. Here's the next set. How are you doing so far? Did you identify all of these? Yeah? I knew it was easy. The next set is to do with relevance. Relevance. We want teacher research to be relevant. Okay? Now let's explain what we mean by relevance. Number 3, examine an issue or a topic that is of interest maybe to your colleagues and your school generally. It's good if you can find a topic that your colleagues are interested in, that your school is interested in, because that makes your project more relevant, not just to yourself, but to your colleagues as well. And then your colleagues will be more interested in what you're doing. Your school maybe will support you in what you're doing, if they think it's relevant. Number 11, focus on a practical issue which is of immediate relevance to your work. This is essential. This is essential. When you do teacher research, you are in charge of choosing the topic. You choose the topic. No one gives you the topic. And so therefore, you are in a position to choose a topic which is of direct, practical, immediate relevance to your work. And that's one of the good things about teacher research. You choose the topic. And number 15? Number 15 is, I think, is an interesting one. It says, don't try to become a researcher. That's not the purpose of teacher research. It is not to turn teachers into researchers. So don't try to become a researcher. If you want to become a researcher, do a master's, do a PhD, that's okay. But the purpose of teacher research is to help you become a better teacher. Okay, so don't try to become a researcher, but use teacher research to help you become a better teacher. And in this sense, it's relevance to your professional identity, okay? Relevance to your professional identity. So don't try to become a researcher, but do research to help you become a better teacher. And here are the last three. And these are to do with collaboration. Collaboration. If you remember earlier in the talk, I said that professional development will be more effective when it has a social dimension, when you're able to collaborate, okay? And it's the same with teacher research. So the question is, how can we make teacher research a collaborative activity? Let's see, number 6. It says, look for ways to make teacher research a collaborative activity, okay? Number 7, find a critical friend who can help you think things through. Now, a critical friend is simply a colleague that you trust who is willing to listen to you. When you have maybe questions about your project, so I'm doing this project, I'm not quite sure what to do next, what do you think? Just someone who's willing to listen to you, someone you can bounce ideas off, someone who will ask you questions maybe to help you think. And number 13, look for opportunities to talk to colleagues about the work you are doing. And this one comes with a bit of a warning. There's a bit of a warning here. I've seen teachers get very excited about their teacher research projects, and they get so excited that they want to talk about it all the time to their colleagues. Okay? And it reaches a point when their colleagues see them coming and they turn around and go the other way. Okay? So that's not what I'm recommending. I'm not saying chase your colleagues around the school, corner them during their lunch breaks and talk to them about your project all the time. I'm not saying that. That probably make you unpopular. But the idea is, are there spaces in your school, are there times in your school where you could talk to colleagues a little bit about your work? Maybe a staff meeting. And you could have 5 minutes of the staff meeting to say, look, I'm doing this project. Is there maybe a newsletter or a website that the school has where you could post brief information about what you're doing? Okay? So the idea is to share what you're doing with colleagues without chasing them around and making them run away when they see you coming. So 12 tips, okay? 12 tips for doing teacher research. This is about collaboration. There's a quote here about collaboration. Johnson says, teachers can only learn in sustained and meaningful ways when they are able to do so together. I wouldn't say only. I delete the only from that quote. Teachers can learn individually, but I think teachers can learn, their value is added to the process when teachers learn together as well. So we've got these four concerns, okay? We've got, these are things to keep in mind when we're doing teacher research to improve its quality. Quality, feasibility, relevance, and collaboration. And we've got 3 tips for each of those, which leaves us with 6 tips on the list. 6, there are 6 left, which we haven't used. Now let's very quickly see which ones they are. I think number 2 is not a tip I would recommend. Complete your teacher research as quickly as possible. No, That's not good advice. You can't do teacher research quickly. You can't say, right, I'm going to do it in a day, in a week, so it's done. No, teacher research needs to take place over time. Number 4, I think, is also bad advice. Make your project as complex as possible. Now, I visit countries sometimes where they believe that if it's complex, it must be better. I've heard people say, I didn't understand a word during that lecture, it must have been really good. Okay? Now, I don't subscribe to that view. I think, you can do good quality work, which is at the same time not overly complex. Okay? So, making things complex is not one of the tips I'd give you. Number 9, okay? Number 9, again, a lot of people, when they hear research, they say, oh, research means statistics. Teachers very often say to me, I can't do teacher research because I'm bad at statistics, but you don't need statistics to do teacher research. You might want to do some simple counting. That's okay, we can all do that. But you certainly don't need to go and do a research methods course or a statistics course to prepare you for teacher research, okay? Totally unnecessary. Number 10 is also bad advice, okay? Bad advice. Make sure you are able to prove something, otherwise the project is a waste of time, okay? Teacher research is not about proving something, it's not about proving. Proof has that sense of finality, doesn't it? I found the answer once and for all. And that's not what teacher research is. Teacher research is about developing understanding, not proof. Okay, so don't worry about trying to prove something. That's not what we're trying to do here. The purpose of teacher research is to develop a better understanding of your work, of your teaching, of your learners. What else have we got? Number 14. Should be one of those that's left. 14 says, abandon the project as soon as it becomes clear it will not provide the results you were hoping for. Okay? And again, I say to people, don't hope. Don't start a teacher research project hoping for particular results. That's not the right starting point. You have questions, you're looking for answers. It's not about hoping for a particular answer. That's not the right way to start. And I think the last one there, which I would recommend, is number 17. Now, this is maybe one I have to say a bit more about. It says, ask your principal or director for a reduction in your workload so you can do your teacher research project. Now, of course, in theory, that's a good idea. And in theory, if your principal said yes, that would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Said, yeah, I'm gonna reduce 2 lessons a week from your timetable, so that would be wonderful. But in my experience around the world, this never happens. This never happens. I don't think I've been in any context where teachers have been given time off their teaching to do teacher research. What happens sometimes is their timetable is rearranged, maybe, so they have 1 day a week when there's no teaching. But all that means is that 5 days are then squeezed into 4. So it's not really a reduction. So because, in my experience, the answer is never yes, I don't encourage teachers to go and ask. I mean, you can still ask, I guess, but go and ask in the expectation that the answer will be no. If you go hoping for a yes, you're probably going to be disappointed, okay? So we've got 12 tips, I think, to keep in mind. We've got 6, which I don't think are that great. And I hope you can take these tips away, take them back to your schools, share them with your colleagues, try to get your colleagues excited in this kind of work. And hopefully next time I visit Ukraine, I'll be able to hear some stories about teacher research that's happening in English language classrooms around the country. Thank you very much.